Hello, my most fabulous art friends. Today, we're going to be learning about Paul Cezanne and the apples and still lifes of fruit that he had done. Today, we're going to get the opportunity to draw some apples on a plate, just as he would have. But if you have the opportunity to put some fruit in a bowl, put it on a table, use a pencil and paper to draw, you could create a still life just like he did. In school, we usually use a big bowl, and I put a lot of fake fruits inside of it, and we sit in a giant circle, and everyone gets the chance to draw a still life. So if you haven't gotten to try that yet, we'll try that next year when we're all back together in person. So for today, you're going to need a blank piece of paper. Any paper will do. I've had people using index cards, inside of cereal boxes, in a notebook. Anything works. You just need a piece of paper. You're going to need a black crayon and then something to color with. I'm going to be using oil pastels today. And if you have oil pastels, I would love for you to use these. If you don't, crayons or colored pencils will work just as fine. You could use markers, but I would really prefer you not, as we're going to blend some colors, and it's very difficult to blend colors using markers. So let's get started. I'm going to grab my black crayon. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to create a plate. The plate should be very big, and it should take up most of your drawing space. The plate can be any shape that you want. We've had square plates, triangle plates, heart plates. I typically make a circle, kind of weird circle shaped plate usually. So let's see. Yeah, it's got a little like wave to it going on right there. Now, inside we're going to create our apples. And we're going to make this very simply. So we're just going to make circles. We're going to make sure that we make them nice and big. You don't want them to be too tiny. And I want to have at least 3, but at the most 5 or 6. You don't want to have too many apples on your plate. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to stick a 5th one right over there. Now, to continue, I need to create detail in my apples. And we're going to create a lot of that detail when we blend our colors, but I need to create a stem. Now, most often people will just put a stem right on the top, but I'm not going to do that. When I throw my apples on the plate, they might be facing in different directions. So I'm going to make a U and a hook inside each apple, but I'm going to put this in different spots, and it's going to create the illusion as though my apple is a little bit more three-dimensional or realistic than it seems on my paper. So a U and a hook. A U and a hook. All different apples facing all different ways. The last thing I'm going to do with my black crayon is I'm going to create a tablecloth. I want you to imagine that my plate is sitting on a table that has a tablecloth. So there should be a design or a pattern. This can be a little tricky because my design or pattern should continue underneath my plate, which means it should show up on the other side. I suggest doing something very simple for a table pattern. So I'm going to just do some wavy lines. Air draw, air draw, air draw, air draw. Air draw, air draw, air draw, air draw. Sometimes saying it helps you to remember that you're not actually drawing on top of your apples. There we go. I now have my plate with my apples sitting on a tablecloth, and I'm ready to add some color. But first, let's look at how we blend colors together. I'm going to take this, move that over to the side, and there's going to be only a few specific colors that I'm going to use. So I'm going to need yellow. No matter what color apples I'd like to do, I'm going to need yellow. I'm going to need red. I'm going to need both greens. And I could use a little bit of orange. Now, if you only want to have a plate of green apples, then you're only going to need yellow and green, maybe a touch of red or orange. If you only want red apples, you're going to need yellow, red, and maybe a little bit of some of that to add some color. Apples usually have a few different colors going on them, except for the really solid green ones and the really solid red ones. So, when I want to blend colors using a crayon, sometimes it helps to do my lighter color, really dark. I'm pressing really hard. And then I'm going to go lightly with the red over it. And it creates kind of an orange color. Now, if I do some red lightly, just going back and forth, making lines, and then I take my yellow and go back and forth and make some lines, it actually creates a kind of different color. The colors look different depending on what goes down first when you're using crayons. The same thing would happen if I did a light green and then added in some dark green. Creates a really cool color when you blend them. So if you don't have oil pastels and you're going to be using crayons or colored pencils, these are the different ways that you can blend colors. And of course, there are so many different mixtures and ways that that can work out, but those are just some quick, simple ones I wanted to show you. Now, if you are working with oil pastels, you are going to want to make sure that you have a baby wipe or something to clean your hands nearby, because we are going to get a little messy. When I use my yellow oil pastel, I press really hard to wipe away that excess. I'm going to take my red and I'm going to actually just create some lines like that. And what happens is if I use one hand to hold down the paper and the other hand to kind of blend with my finger, I can pull that yellow into that red. I'm kind of going in a sideways back and forth motion. I can always add more yellow if it didn't come out as dark as I wanted that to. It creates a really cool look. You can even add some green in there just to create a darker look for that apple. When working with oil pastels, if you're going to use a lot of different colors to blend, it would be really smart to make sure that you used a different finger for different colors. So here I've paired yellow with light green with dark green. I'm going to take a finger that I haven't done any blending with yet. There's no color on that. I'm going to hold down my paper and I'm going to just kind of go back and forth. Creates a really nice look right there. All right, let's see what we can do on our actual apples. I'm going to pull these back over here. I'm going to clean off my hands really quick. Fresh start for a fresh piece of paper. I'm going to pull out all the colors that I might want to use. I actually want a lighter red than the one I had taken before. Grab a little bit of that. All right, I'll put those down. So when I go into coloring my apples, it's really important to add different colors in different spots. And let me just zoom in real quick so you can just see that a little bit closer. I like to take my yellow and I like to color back here. and really give this top piece that color, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of layer my colors, but I'm not going to fill the whole apple. The dark colors are going to overpower the yellow, so I don't want to have too much of them. If I colored in the whole object, it would kind of, the colors would overtake the yellow. This way, I can create a very realistic apple. Okay, and I'm going to try my hardest to keep my rubbing inside of the circle that I've created. Sometimes it's going to go out of that. It's okay. Don't worry about it. We've created a very realistic looking apple. Now I can add some of that darker green right in there. Just do a little rub, give it kind of a shadow going on up there. We've created a green apple. Let's try another one. All right, I'm going to come over here. And again, I'm going to color in this whole top piece. I'm not so worried if any of the black spreads because that's just going to help me to create a shadow up there. And this time I'm going to go with red. So red really kind of takes over colors. So I'm actually going to throw in a little extra yellow, which yes, is going to create kind of an orange if we remember our colors, but it works out really well the way that we want it to. This time I'm going to kind of pull from the yellow and pull down. And again, I'm moving my finger in a circular motion. I'm trying not to go over that yellow at the top too much this time. I don't want to really overtake it. We're going to add a little bit more yellow in there. A little light green just kind of changes that tone over there in that corner. And there you go. I have a red apple. All right, we're going to go with another color this time. All right, so I got this yellow piece going on. We're going to add a little orange. What you think about those more yellowish kind of apples? I'm going to add some light green, but I'm actually going to layer my light green up through the whole apple. I really want that light green to take over those light colors. And I'm going to find a finger I haven't used yet or clean off a finger. Either one works. All right, make sure your fingers are dry before you begin rubbing the oil pastels. If not, it's going to kind of get stuck in one spot. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to go in that circular motion again. I'm going to need some more green on this, but that's the beautiful thing with these oil pastels. You can really kind of just keep adding and changing to make it look the way you want. That actually came out really cool. I really like that, but I will add a little bit more green. And the light green is being overpowered, so I'm actually going to throw in a few dark green spots. There we go. You get these dark spaces, you can just kind of push them in. If for some reason you really don't want to get your fingers dirty, you really don't like that idea of getting your fingers dirty, you could use a Q-tip, you could use a tissue. I do think that fingers work the best when rubbing these, but you have to do what you're comfortable with. And again, if you don't have oil pastels, the same look can be achieved just by using your crayons or colored pencils. Markers are really going to be tough to make this work. So you want to use crayons or colored pencils if you do not have oil pastels. And we're going to kind of pull down into that red. I like to try to make them all a little bit different. You don't have to, my friends. You can make them all the same if you want, however you want them to look. We do want them to be realistic though, so please no purple apples. It's kind of like painting with crayons. You can kind of blend those colors and change them up a bit. And for this last one, I think I'm going to do a full dark green apple. So we're going to do a lot of yellow because, again, those dark colors really kind of overtake this. They overpower the whole situation. I want to make sure that that yellow stays in there. And this finger's kind of clean. There we go. push that green up into there. I do want this apple to be mostly green. No matter what, we add that yellow to every single one. It kind of gives it that nice tint. Look at that dark green apple. Beautiful. Those are my favorite apples, the green ones. There we go. All right. So after that, your next steps are to color your plate and color your tablecloth. Um, I think that your plate should be a different color than your apples. So if you've made all green apples and you want a red plate, that's great. If you've made all red apples and you want a green plate, that's great. I would steer clear of the yellow plate. You don't want your apples to blend too much into that. You can use a black crayon to go over the apple shape if you want that to stand out a little bit more. I'm actually going to wait till after I color the plate to re-go over those. And I'm going to show you just how I do that. So hold on 1 second. Let's see this. And there we go, colored plate. I used oil pastels. I actually blended two colors together a little bit. You can kind of see a little bit where that happened over there. But what I was saying, so after you've colored your plate, whether you use crayons, oil pastels, colored pencils, markers, and you'd like to go back over your apples, this is when I would suggest using the black oil pastel if you have one. I don't like to go over lines that I might be rubbing around because what happens is then the black's going to go in, you can't get it out. So you really want to make sure that you're careful with when you're using this. So I'm actually not even going to go around the plate right now because I want to make sure I'm going to use oil pastels for my background. But what I am going to do is I am going to do this to kind of re-go over some of those features of the apple. I don't want to go over the U so dark because that part is kind of like that dip in. But I can kind of go around the apple again if I want, kind of make that color just a little bit darker so it stands out a little bit more on my plate. Again, I don't want to go too dark, and you might prefer not to do this, okay? This is really an option. Not everyone is going to want to make those apples darker. Sometimes I like the way it looks, sometimes I don't. Like I said, it's a personal choice. Okay? That's going to kind of make those apples stand out more on the page. After that, your next step is to color your tablecloth. And there you have it, folks. Outlining my plate now that my background is done. Notice that my background was done in a pattern. I like to make it very realistic, like a tablecloth would be. Okay. And I do realize that it's got kind of like a weird glare because of the lights down here. So I will take a picture and also post that in the assignment, just so everyone can really see what this looks like when it's completely done. This is one of my favorite ones to create. I really do hope that you're able to get a handle on those oil pastels. But if not, I promise that we will get a chance to try this together once we're all in person. And we'll make sure that we all work on the blending of these colors. There we go. And voila, it's done. I cannot wait to see yours. Have fun.